Hey everyone, thanks for coming back and checking out another episode of my show. We're down to the last two, and this week we're gonna trek back to the 90s and talk about my favorite movie in the cop crime genre. The movie I'm going to talk about is Heat, and Heat is a movie that was written and directed by Michael Mann. It came out in 1995, and it stars Al Pacino and Robert De Niro. And Heat is... the reason why I like Heat so much is it's just one of the best, like, overall films that I've seen, where everything and every aspect is extremely well executed across the board, from the production design, cinematography, the editing, the the performances are absolutely amazing. The story, all those things are just, all consistently top tier. And it's not a perfect film by any means. No film is truly perfect. I think some people might, try and nitpick things about this movie, but I honestly think that, this is one of the best, especially in this genre, but the heist and, crime and cop drama films. But the biggest reason why I like it is the story, and the beauty of the story is that it takes a very personal look into the minds of a police officer and a criminal. And I'm a big fan of, you've heard me talk about stories that, like movies that are like very human approaches, tell very human stories. Often, movies, especially on the action side, can tell slightly more elaborated versions of, human experience and characters and that kind of thing, or a very one-sided perspective of a individual. And though that's fine and serves its purpose, I really enjoy movies that can show you characters that are realistic and well-rounded, and that they may have like flaws, or things that they do wrong. They're not perfect, but they're also really good about, certain things, and really skilled in certain things. Or there are a lot of things that we still like about them, even though they might be flawed and have all these issues. And the cool thing is that both of the main characters in the movie have that, where they have things that make them flawed. Like even the criminal, he's a criminal, he's a murderer, he's a thief, he kills people, he steals things, and that kind of stuff. But then there are redeeming qualities about him. He has his own set of rules and moral code, and things like that he lives by, and he still helps people in some ways and that kind of stuff. So like he has a set of rules and ways that he lives. And then there's the police officer, or the detective, that is trying to hunt him down, and he's the good guy. He's the guy that we want to root for and that kind of stuff. But he also has some issues and problems and things that you look at him and a little like, dude, why'd you have to do that? Not to the point that we hate this character, or we even dislike, him more than the thief in the movie, but it's still enough that it makes them feel like a real person. And I think they, both actors, Al Pacino and De Niro, do a great job of portraying that. I think they give career high performances. This isn't the movie, actually. It's one of the that they're known for. It's one of the most underrated films, I think. That's how I think I would define this one. It's like the best of the underrated films. It didn't win any Oscars. I don't think it was nominated for any, to be honest. but it's always scored high reviews. It had a lot of high critical acclaim. It's, you know, very high on most top 10 lists, not top 10 lists, but like top 100 lists, top film lists. You know, it still has a very high score on most review websites and that kind of thing. And generally, the handful of people that I know have seen it, it's also another thing, not a lot of people I know have actually seen it, but the people that I know who have seen it all say, yeah, no, that's actually a really great movie. It's an excellent movie. But it's, yeah, the performances by De Niro and Pacino are just really, really great performances. They're really cool characters. They really make the characters seem, you know, natural, and, you know, the performances are effortless. And it's just, that's really the biggest thing about this movie, is the fact that, you know, these two powerhouse actors of a generation that have only done a handful of movies together, you know, have this film where they're squaring off against each other. They're playing two opposite ends, you know, of the same coin, as you kind of, you know, as they say in the movie, you know, as you kind of like get to know them. The general premise of the film is very basic. You have, you know, Robert De Niro's character, who is leading a group of thieves, and Al Pacino's character, who's leading a group of cops that are trying to catch the thieves. And there's a moment where Pacino and De Niro actually meet, and that's a very rare thing that occurs in most crime movies. Usually it's the cop trying to catch the killer, or the cop trying to catch the thief, or whoever it is, and they never meet up until like maybe the very end of the movie. But the general premise of the film is that at some point they do meet, way before things really get crazy. And that's like the most iconic scene in the film, that Michael Mann, the director, said was based off of something that actually happened. A friend of his was a cop, and he at one point met a local criminal in a coffee shop. You know, and he was a known criminal. He's someone that actually the police wanted to look out for, to hopefully catch in the act of doing something. And they met in a coffee shop one day, you know, and that was what sparked the idea of this movie. So that's kind of one of the interesting, cool facts about it. But that whole interaction, when that happens in the film, is something that is super interesting because of the performances that these two guys give, and the fact that it's such a human, realistic thing that when they meet, you realize, you know, they're two of the same guys, essentially. But what really stuck out to me, you know, about this movie, the first time I saw it, actually, I didn't see the whole thing. I actually came on the very end of the movie. It was like the very final scene, the last couple shots of the film. My dad had stumbled on it, you know, on TV. I was really young. I think I was maybe like, you know, 7 or 8. You know, I wasn't, you know, that old. And I came in, and Dad was like was flipping through the stations, and he saw it on the TV. And I just remember like standing there, like watching the final scene, and the two characters. They, you know, I'm not going to try and give it away, but one of them is dying, and the other one isn't. And they're holding each other's hand as one of the characters dies, and that shot and that moment stuck out to me so much. And I'm like, you know, and like I saw that part, like, you know, I knew that one was, you know, they were against each other, you know, that they were on two different sides, like one was supposed to be the bad guy and the good guy or whatever. And so I was just like, well, why is he holding his hand, you know? And I remember my dad saying, you know, like, well, that's, you know, a dying man's final wish. And so it's like, you know, it must have been his final wish or something like that. And so that just stuck out to me, you know, about that moment. And I just knew that, you know, when I got older, like, I wanted to like see this whole thing. I wanted to know the story behind this final moment, because it's just something about that scene, that ending. It's like my favorite ending of any movie. That it just speaks to how at the end of the day, even if we live good lives or bad lives as, you know, people, we all die, you know, at some point. And, you know, no one should have to die alone, I think, is something that like stuck out to me about this film. And it's something that, you know, even like enemies can have a moment where they can see each other as, you know, human beings, and recognize that at the end of the day, I'm human, you're human. You might have made bad decisions, I might have made good ones, or vice versa. You know, you're still a human being and you're gonna die, and, you know, you shouldn't have to die alone, you know. And I think that was like the weird, you know, beauty of it, and also the mutual respect from one human being to another. So that's like the base theme of the film, and the story and everything. So that's one of the big reasons why I love it. It's Michael Mann, the director, is one of my favorites, and he this is my favorite of his movies. He's done a lot, like Collateral, and I'm trying to think of another one, Last of the Mohicans, and a couple other films that he's known for. And I think this is his like best work. And yeah, it's a phenomenal movie. I could go on and on about it, and it's one that I definitely watch quite a bit. It's the type of crime movie that I want to make one day. More than likely, you know, at some point you're going to watch a movie and you're going to be like, did Gerald take some inspiration from Heat when he made this? Yes, actually. Even in my senior project that I did, there were like little things that I, you know, took stylistically wise from that film. And so, yeah, it's oh man, I need to wrap it up because I could go on and on about Heat. Anyway, alright, that's Heat. Fantastic movie. Check it out. Can't recommend it enough. Thanks for sitting through all this and watching it. Hope you enjoyed it and found out about a movie that's little known, but, you know, hopefully you'll be willing to check out at some point. Take it easy. I hope everyone is doing well out there. And join me next week where I wrap up this first season, where I talk about the last of my favorite films. Have a good one. Catch you guys next week.